I've been really busy lately, so I have all these tabs open with Xbox stories from PAX and from earlier, where the teams behind the games that are coming out at Microsoft have talked about what's going on with them. This includes Fable, this includes Perfect Dark, and I wanted to kind of go over a bunch of Xbox news that I have missed because it's Saturday, so why not? Let's dive right in. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like my content, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when it goes live. Well, let's start going right through these stories, beginning with Fable. So the first story is that apparently an Xbox executive wants to show Fable now, but the developer wants it to be ready first. So expressing a lot of excitement about it. At PAX West 2022, Matt Booty said that Playground is doing so many cool things with the next generation of Fable game that he asked them to share it every time he sees it. Part of my job is giving air to cover the team, he explained. They don't want to show stuff early before it's ready to go. But if there's one game where that's kind of flipped around, where every time I see something I say, we should show this, it's Fable, because there's a lot of cool stuff. That being said, the team has made it very clear that I am not going to be able to show anything until it's ready, Booty laughed. He gave a brief update on its development, however, commenting that Playground is bringing the same craft and dedication that they brought to Forza Horizon. Booty also admitted that giving Fable to a developer best known for its racing games was a bit of a head scratcher, but Playground has proven that they get it. So this was sort of a conversation between the host of the event and Matt Booty talking about the status of Fable. But it is nice to hear that the game is coming along nicely and people are very excited to play it. I'm excited to see more. Admittedly, I like Fable, but I'm very curious where they're going to go with the franchise from here. The whole morality system, I feel like, is incredibly important to the Fable franchise. I feel like you have to have that play as evil as you want or play as good as you want. And I'm very curious how they're going to modernize that aspect of the game. And interestingly enough, we had one user who, Connor Cross, who is the associate art director at Playground Games, who said, we'll be at THU this year at some event. I don't know what that is. It's September 19th to 24th, so it's right around the corner. He's looking forward to meeting you all and checking out these portfolios. And this looks awfully Fable-esque, if you ask me. So maybe we are going to hear something sooner rather than later from the team at Playground. Separately, Matt Booty talked a lot during PAX, and there's a lot of great quotes from him, but he talks about the industry and where we're heading in terms of AAA games. In his opinion, he says, Xbox Studio Boss says the days of single studio AAA games are long gone. Matt Booty says Crystal Dynamics' work on Perfect Dark is normal, not proof of a problem. So two different things are happening here. He's talking about AAA development and how it works in modern day, and he's also abating concerns about Perfect Dark. So we're going to learn a little bit more about Perfect Dark, and we're going to hear him talk about how he feels AAA works in the modern day. So basically he says, whoa, that was a weird breath. During a Q&A panel at PAX West 2022 over the weekend, Booty was asked whether the large numbers of game delays over the past couple of years could be blamed mainly on the COVID-19 pandemic. Booty replied that while the pandemic clearly played a key part in it, there are other aspects of modern game development that make delays more likely. How we make games is evolving, Booty explained. The idea of a single team under one roof really doesn't happen that often anymore. I'll use an example, our Perfect Dark team down in Santa Monica, the initiative. So we just did this big partnership with Crystal Dynamics, and I read online, oh, this must mean there's a problem or something. It's quite the opposite, right? You've got this veteran team at Crystal Dynamics, a big AAA team with over 100 people that becomes available. Of course we want to work with them, particularly if they've made a game like that before. And that's how we've done an awful lot of work. If you think about Age of Empires 4, which just launched this fall, that was made in partnership with Relic Studios up in Vancouver. Great partnership. And even something like Flight Simulator, we worked with a studio in France called Asobo, who's also making Plague Tale, I believe. And that kind of co-development, when you're working out with people like Certain Affinity, Iron Galaxy, Blackbird, all of these studios are so key to the products that we make. That, though, also adds some complexity where if one of these studios has problems, it then impacts the schedule. So the days are gone when you can sort of go, everybody round up the team in the cafeteria. I want to tell everybody to work harder this Wednesday. That's long gone. It's gotten a lot more complicated than that. Xbox signed up Marvel's Avengers and Tomb Raider developer Crystal Dynamics in September 2021 to help develop its Perfect Dark reboot. Now, one thing I want to talk about here is that there was an article written by the same outlet that talked about why they're concerned, and it doesn't really have anything to do with Crystal Dynamics stepping in. It's because of the massive amount of departures at Perfect Dark. I am glad to hear that Matt Booty is trying to abate concerns, but I'm still very concerned about Perfect Dark because of the massive amount of turnover over at Perfect Dark Studio. And this article does a really good job at the bottom. Like, you can see how many people are gone. So many people have ended up leaving the company initiative. And the idea was that this was going to be a big deal for Xbox. Unfortunately, it just doesn't sound like that's the case anymore. They're just like a support team basically that's going to be working with Crystal Dynamics. I'm very unclear about what the initiative is because it seemed like at launch to me and a lot of people that this was going to be some big new studio, and that's just not seeming to be the case. I'm excited about Perfect Dark. I'm taking a wait and see approach, but I still am concerned regardless of what Matt Booty has said. Let me know how you feel about it in the comments. Anyway, next gen features like ray tracing aren't helping with delays, says executive. So yet again, this was an AMA. So Xbox's Matt Booty was asked about this very topic and whether COVID really is to blame for all these recent delays. As it turns out, it isn't entirely at fault. Booty discusses a number of other issues contributing to game delays, with the transition to next-gen consoles still earmarked as an issue for developers almost 2 years after launch. The teams have really leaned in and figured out how... Oh my goodness. The teams have really leaned in and figured out a lot of great ways, and actually there's been a lot of innovation around that working with COVID. We're still on the front edge of a new console generation. The teams are still figuring out things like ray tracing. The Xbox exec then goes on to discuss CPUs within next-gen consoles and how developers are still getting to grips with shifting power over from GPU-centric consoles like Xbox One to the current CPU-strong systems like Xbox Series X and S. We spent 5 or 10 years figuring out how to optimize things for GPUs. We want to move all the work over to the graphics card and have the graphics card do all this work. Now, as gamers get more heavy into things like simulation and even some of the graphics workload are actually more on the CPU side. So now we've got teams trying to sort of back up and figure out, what am I going to move over to the CPU? How do I balance between these two things? We're still wrestling with that. And this is sort of talking about the challenges of working with ray tracing. And they have a note here. At present, Xbox Game Studios hasn't utilized ray tracing in a big way, but that should be about to change. Forza Motorsport is set to launch in spring 2023 from Turn 10 Studios, which is working to deliver real-time ray tracing on track, a first for the series. Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in what's going to happen with ray tracing. But for me, ray tracing is kind of gimmicky. Well, I really like how PlayStation handles ray tracing, actually, like Ratchet and Clank, and how there's like reflections on everything. Spider-Man is a great example of it being utilized. But I feel like you can accomplish a lot of the same visual fidelity using Unreal's solution, for example, that sort of does ray tracing, but it's a step down. It's very pretty. It really does add a lot to the game, but it is incredibly taxing on games. So, well, I hear what he's saying. Xbox has not done ray tracing as well, or at least not as remarkable as PlayStation has, in my opinion. And I think in the future, we're going to finally see them figure out how to utilize that technology to the best of their ability, or at least I would hope that would be the case. Those were the stories that I've had those open for a long time, and I kind of thought it would be interesting to just take a look at what's going on with Fable, what's going on with the Crystal Dynamics team and how Perfect Dark is going and some of the challenges that are faced in game development. Those are all great quotes that have been sort of all over the place from PAX, and I thought the weekend would be a good time to finally catch up on the news and talk about that. Now, if you missed any of my videos, I've actually been talking a lot about the status of Halo and my disappointment there. The argument that PlayStation and Xbox are currently having about content exclusivity. So be sure you check those out. I'll put those at the end of the video. Real quick, thank you to the members for supporting the channel. If you want to support the channel, become a member, you can do so. You just click that join button. It's right there. It's like right there. Come on, Arrow. All right. And that's all I have for this one. So I'll see you for the next time. Bye, everybody.